The Kentucky and Virginia resolutions of 1798 to 1799 were adopted by the legislators of Kentucky and Virginia. The purpose of these documents were to define the strict construction of the view of the relative powers of the state and the federal governments. The Virginia resolutions were drafted Friday, December 21st, 1798, and was written by James Madison, who also wrote the Kentucky resolutions just a few months before with the help of Thomas Jefferson. Both of these documents were in reaction to the Alien and Sedition Acts. The Kentucky resolutions were drafted November 10th, 1798, and were also approved by their governor in 1798. This document was written by James Madison with the help of Thomas Jefferson. James Madison thought of the idea first, and then Thomas Jefferson came in to pitch in a few ideas. This document looks to be a reprint that was produced for people to read after it was originally made. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison both wrote the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions of 1798 to 1799. They both wrote these documents to save the states from being harmed by the Alien and Sedition Acts, which were written a few years before. They also took notice of the fact of the powers that the central government had and the powers that the state government had as well. Jefferson and Madison saw the infringements in the documents that could hurt their states in which they cared about. This is why they wrote the Kentucky and Virginia resolution. In this picture, there is a courthouse, or a meeting house. This is a place where the General Assembly of Virginia would have their meeting to talk about the Virginia resolutions. This is a similar place to where the Kentucky Commonwealth would have to meet to talk about their resolutions they wanted to make as well. I know it wouldn't look like this, but this was something similar to where they would meet. I know this isn't what it would have looked like back then, but this is where the two different Kentucky and Virginia Commonwealth and the General Assembly of Virginia would have met to talk about the resolutions they wanted to make. These men would sit down and talk about the problems with the Alien and Sedition Acts. Imagine all of those chairs filled with wealthy men talking about how they wanted to change a document, and a federal one at that. Even though Madison and Jefferson were trying to improve the states, there were many advantages and disadvantages to this document. The first advantage was that Madison and Jefferson were trying to help the states. The disadvantage to that was that this document was going against the Alien and Sedition Acts. The second advantage was it was trying to improve the Alien and Sedition Acts to help the U.S. move along better than it has been before. The disadvantage to this was the writers were trying to find the errors in the document which would make the writers of the Alien and Sedition Acts mad.